Good morning.
Good morning, my friends. Today is indeed a good day. I can love you and be your friend, even if we think differently, believe differently, act differently, look different, or come from different places in life. You are welcome here. With that in mind, let's get our day started together. Let's slow down together each morning to contemplate valuable precepts and how we might apply these in our thoughts, words, and actions today, and how they might grow into practices, habits, and even ways of life, so that our life's example is rooted firmly in core values that are a benefit to ourselves and to all around us. Welcome to the weekend. Today is Saturday. You know what? I don't think I updated my title on my on my broadcast. It's been a little crazy, and so I apologize for that. I'll have to update it after the fact. But today's precept is patience. In fact, look at this. I just do not have it together this morning. Is patience. So when I'm talking about patience, it isn't just about the ability to wait, right? But it is about how we are in our core, and how we act while waiting. I would not say that someone that doesn't immediately get what they want, but they're able to sit and endure it, is necessarily patient. They may have endurance, but that may not be patience. So patience is beyond the waiting. It is what's going on in our thoughts, in our mind, and our actions, and our words when we are having to wait. I thought about several different stories and examples. One story that I thought of was about two families that decide to open a shoe store. Each of them individually opens a shoe store. And the first family says, well, we need to be focused on the fads and the things that are trending, and we need to catch people's attention by developing shoes that are going to be the cool thing, because that's what everybody buys. And they said, well, let's go out and so we're going to spend most of our budget on advertising and stirring up a buzz about our product. And we're gonna have to change as each of these trends and things that are fads change. So they built their business, and knowing that they were going to spend most of their budget in sort of advertising and changing all of their materials and their products very rapidly, in order to have a profit, they had to find the places that could produce the shoes the cheapest. They had to produce them with very low cost, which also spoke to that what they were giving their customers may not be the best quality, but it would be something that's attention grabbing and maybe in high demand. That was their approach. They opened their business, and they actually started off with creating a stir. They invested a lot of money in advertising about making it seem cool and have all the cool advertising, and everything inside their store fit the latest fads, everything they had on the walls, the colors they used, the shelves they used to put the product on. Every attention was taken to make it have that cool feel to it, and that trendy and that right now approach. And they built the business, and when they opened it, they had a huge groundswell of interest in it because it had the cool stuff, right? And as each fad changed in season, as is normal, they would have to go through this process over and over again. Redo the store, redo all of the advertising, redo the wording, even retrain their people in the things to say and the things not to say and what's cool and what's trendy right now. So a lot of their effort and their investment was always in the appearance and not in the product. But it was effective, and they made money. But they found that over time, they never could reach that same initial groundswell that they had in the beginning. And they found that it was very tedious, and it was a problem to have to try and keep up and be the trendsetter. Because a brand new store with a new name could come out and could try and be the grand new thing, and you know what? After a while, they had been around for a while, and that started to work against them. So eventually, their profits over time slanted downwards, and eventually they got tired of the chase, of constantly chasing, constantly trying to reinvent themselves, and they gave up and they moved on to something else. Now, the second family, they sat down and they said, well, what do we value? What is important to us? And they talked with the family, and they decided what their important core values were. And then they said, well, what are our skills and talents? And they looked at all of those and said, well, how can we apply these values and our talents in an effective way to produce a product that is going to be valuable to those around us? They said, well, they came up with some ideas of what they thought. And then they said, well, before we invest our money and our time and our effort, what if we do a little bit of product research? And we actually ask people. We don't make assumptions that what we think is right or what we think the people need is correct, but we'll research and we'll ask. So they did surveys, and they did consumer surveys and asked, and they refined what was needed in the marketplace and what people were interested in. And then they aligned their skills and their talents and their core values, and they decided that they would not try and produce something that was the coolest. They decided that what they would produce was something that was practical, was reliable, would last, and that was a reasonable cost. And they went about finding vendors that aligned with that. They looked for advertisers that could present a brand that would consistently always be that. And before they even decorated their stores or produced a logo or a brand, they made sure that everything aligned with that. So their stores, when they opened, they had everything to support that model. Very, very similar to how the other family, they made sure that everything fit the trend of the moment, right? But these stores were about reliability, about something stable, about something long lasting. And because of that, their stores did not have to change every season. Their training for their people did not have to change every season. They were consistent. They were always there. Now, they did not grow a groundswell the day that they opened. They opened, and at first, most of the people were going to the trendy places. But when those trendy and cheaply made shoes wore out, some of them, and they had spent a fortune because they were the expensive, trendy thing that everyone had to have. They had spent a lot of money. Some of them said, that hurt my wallet a little more than I wanted it to, and didn't last very long. So a few of them said, well, you know what? Maybe I'll give this other place a try. Some of them went and bought shoes at this other place because this time they couldn't afford the trendy shoes. But you know what? No matter their reason for buying these shoes, they found that they lasted, and they were comfortable, and they fit well. They didn't pinch their feet, and they didn't wear out fast, and they couldn't help but realize that this was a better product for them. Even though it wasn't the cool thing, even though it wasn't trendy for the moment, it was better, and it was a better value. And everyone realized this over time. Now, people still, when they had the money to splurge, they might go and get the trendy thing. But this other shoe store began to build a reputation for being a great shoe store, a reliable shoe store. And over time, their sales trended up. Now we can take this same perspective and we can talk about relationships. We can say that two men went out and one was looking for what was most attractive to his eye. What was the trendy thing? The girl who knew how to be popular, right? The one that knew how to draw the attention and the eyes of all around. And that was how he sought his bride and his mate. And there was another man who was a little more patient in his approach. He thought about the long term, and he said to himself, I need to find someone who has integrity, who is honest, who is willing to work hard, who doesn't demand her own way, and who will not nag me and drive me insane if this is going to be the person who's with me for the rest of my life. He thought about the character of the possible wife. The first man thought about the presentation and the right now. Didn't think about the fact that the presentation will wear out. The outside will wear out, right? But the second man, his eye was on the horizon, not on the today. We can take this same approach, this same perspective. And it isn't about whether we choose the pretty or the trendy, or we choose the practical. At its essence, it is whether we will choose to wait for what is better, whether we can see and appreciate the value of patience, of putting off today's gain for a possible greater gain on a longer term calendar, right? So this is patience. I think about in our life right now, we have been dealing with some very unexpected circumstances. Some of you know we had a lightning strike and damage in our house to several things, and there were a lot of unexpected expenses as a result of that. And we had also just had some other unexpected expenses that came up very quickly. And then this week, as I was traveling to a leadership training that my employer had sent me to, as I was arriving at the location, which was a good long drive away, my wife called, and she was stranded on the side of the interstate because one of our vehicles had left her stranded. And we worked through that. And then the next day, as the one vehicle was in the shop being worked on, thankfully I was working from home. So the other remaining vehicle, she drove to work. And on her way home from work, she hit something and called me because, again, she was stranded on the side of the road with a disabled vehicle. 2 vehicles down in 2 days. And both times I was in a position where I could not be there immediately to be the knight in shining armor to help her. The first situation, because I was far away. The second situation, because I was at the at the house with no second vehicle for me. And that's frustrating when you can't immediately be there for someone. And I know that my wife, she is very level-headed, but she doesn't deal well with when things don't go to plan. I'm more spontaneous, but when things are thrown off of their schedule, it challenges her. So I knew that I needed to be there to help her, to do my part as a husband, to provide and to provide a secure and a stable environment for my family to thrive in, right? And honestly, I felt in many ways like I was failing my family. And as I scrambled to try and find the different things that we needed to deal with a multiple vehicle out situation, friends and family helped us, and it did not go as quickly as I wished that it had for us to get it resolved. But we were patient through it. Yes, at times we got frustrated, but in time, you learn that it is what it is. I've seen TikToks and they make fun of that a bit, and I say that a lot, but my wife does not. And she said that last night. And I said, but baby, that's my thing that I say. I know that's hard for you. That's not your thing. And she acknowledged that it's not her thing, but maybe it needed to be. And I saw that she was able to be patient, to deal through that situation. And it encouraged me. It encouraged me that she was not immediately blaming me and immediately, demanding that we replace our vehicle. She's been wanting a new vehicle for a while because of frustrations with our cars. But she's patient. She's patient with me. And that just encouraged me. In fact, it inspires me to try and be more patient. But more so, I want to fix the underlying issue, so that maybe at least in that area, she won't have to be patient. Maybe she can store that patience up and use it with me and with my failings. So patience, that's like this morning. There was no way with all of that we're dealing with that I was going to get my lesson done at the normal 7 or 7:15 or 7:30 time. So I'm doing it a good hour later than I intended. But instead of getting flustered about it, we just laughed. Because I told her, I said, well, my precept today is patience. And she said, and we both laughed. We just laughed and said, well, that's about par for the course. Patience is, in some ways, it isn't easy. But it isn't easy if we keep our eyes on that thing that's close that isn't what we expected. Right? It's like when we see something that is fearful or causes us to fear. If we set our eyes on that and we can't take them away, we're not going to escape it. It's going to master us. It's going to own us. But if we can look past that, right, to something further, to something different, to something that gives us perspective, then patience is just a natural consequence of us setting our eyes further down the road instead of just on the moment. That helps me. I'm trusting that there is a further down the road that is more important than the moment right now, than the disappointment right now, that it's going to serve a purpose greater, that I'm going to learn from it. That is patience for me. I love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope you... I never want to pray for patience or wish patience upon someone, because I know that is going to come with challenge. If you pray for patience, the Lord isn't going to wave his magic wand and say, poof, you're more patient now. No, he's going to give you a challenge that is going to stretch you and give you the opportunity to learn and know and exercise patience, to see that it is more valuable and reliable, like the good shoes, right? I love you. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, yeah. Good morning. It's a new day.
Today's a new day.
So give him praise.